Gamma Matron. We started out seeing Gamma looking at the damaged base of the heroes and being sad. After a pregnant Vanilla the rabbit is having some trouble carrying baskets of her groceries, which stereotypically have carrots, she gets startled at seeing Gamma and hides, and Gamma starts holding her baskets. And we don't actually see the conversation they had with each other. I guess the logic is that would have been too boring and redundant, but it just makes it confusing, especially since there was a time skip right after that where it cuts to Vanilla being fine with them. I guess we're supposed to assume that he told her who he is and that he's good, and so she was convinced to let him be her shopping assistant. Then after Vanilla finds out she's got an eviction notice, Gamma wants to help, and then we see Sonic in front of someone who's holding a paper saying Vanilla on it, with the words "Open Properties" behind him, and Vanilla and Gamma are nearby, and Gamma gives Vanilla a thumbs up. So we were supposed to immediately assume that Sonic bought Vanilla's property for her or something to save her from being evicted. I guess we're supposed to assume that he has a huge amount of money as a heroic celebrity. Why doesn't this have any dialogue? Because this might be confusing because we're never specifically told that Sonic is rich. Basically, the story was about Gamma post-redemption meeting Vanilla when she was walking home with groceries pregnant, and Gamma decides to carry her groceries home for her, but we never get to read the conversation they had that were supposed to persuade her to trust the robot. It just skips over that. And then when she's gonna be evicted, he makes sure Sonic saved the day. But I don't really know how because there's no dialogue. It was nice that Gamma helped Vanilla, but why is there no dialogue? This would have been easier to be invested in with at least the bare minimum of dialogue to explain what was going on. I looked forward to seeing their first meeting with each other, and I don't entirely feel like I saw it. The Gamma story after that is Gamma Child. I'm not really sure when it takes place though. There's apparently nothing to say about this story. Gamma literally just shows up outside her window, and she was happy for apparently no reason. And then it's literally just a short plot where she starts having the baby and he rushes her to the hospital. As cliche as you can get. That was nothing. I already saw a story like this with Tails' mother. The only good things I can say about it are that Baby Cream is cute, of course the art is good, and most importantly, there's no dialogue. So I can rush through its bare bones plot really quickly. I wish this was just a part of the Gamma and Matron story and it was at the end of it. It would have been better organized if in Sonic the Continuation itself, it told you at the end of its issues to go check out an SEC miniseries. That way you'd know to read the SEC miniseries, and you'd know when the miniseries took place. Sonic the Continuation Issue 3. So we see Styx show up from Sonic Boom, and she says that finally she's in paradise. It zooms out to an island with a mountain on it. And I have to assume it's Angel Island because there's no text box on the panel, and I suppose the mountain has to be a dead giveaway. It's really special that she shows up in a Fleetwave fan comic. She says that because this place is hidden, they'll never find her here. I can't help but see this as padding at first because we're not seeing any of the main characters and she came out of nowhere. Then she hears a noise and gets intimidated as the island starts flying again. Status quo is restored, thrilling. It'd be a better contrast between this and SSC Online if it stayed underwater. It'd be safer hidden underwater. Things could change so that the emeralds merely maintained an air bubble around the island instead of floating it. Porker loses faith really quickly, so we assumed a place as magical as Angel Island would never fly again after it fell into the water. Porker's at least smart enough to plan on making something to allow for a more controlled landing if the emeralds get evacuated again. Knuckles says that since Sonic told him he saw him alive and living with his people in the past, he might have been put in suspended animation, and that must have been on the island somewhere, so he should start looking for it. That's more smart of him and Sonic and more believable than SSC Online, where Knuckles just got killed and woke up in the Guardian Emerald, and there was never any indication that Sonic cared enough to tell him that he saw him in the past, but here he learns about it, and actually wants to go find the suspended animation chamber. Although the Guardian robots that the comic took a while to introduce to Knuckles must have carried him out of the suspension chamber after he woke up. Or it'd make no sense that he wouldn't remember waking up in it. But it can make sense that Sonic didn't tell him he saw him in the past in SSC Online because he probably assumed Knuckles wouldn't believe him. That he would reasonably tell him that he mistook some other echidna for him, and assumed that maybe the same name was just a coincidence. Or maybe Sonic assumed that Knuckles remembered being in the past, so we didn't see a reason to tell Knuckles about it. How is he supposed to know that he doesn't remember that far back? So Knuckles plans on looking for the suspended animation pod in Megapolis, his people's capital city. Why doesn't he just ask one of the guardian robots about it? Surely they must have seen him in there and taken him out of it, or he'd either still be in it or remember getting out of it. Knuckles says that the city is huge and half of it is ruins, so any evidence you could find here might be buried deep. That wouldn't make any sense, because how would he have gotten out of the suspended animation chamber if it was buried deep and inaccessible to him? Then he asks what Big's doing fishing on the island. Big says that a green thing got caught on his line, as Knuckles asks him where he got it. Knuckles says that the thing with green stuff on it could be it. At first I thought it was Chaos the Fish, and the comic writer finally wanted to correct his mistake of ignoring SEC canon, where he's supposed to be with Big right now. Him not being with him is part of why I consider this to be an alternate universe. Styx swings by on a vine and steals it from him, and says paranoidly that she won't give it to him because they want it so they can keep everything for themselves. It'd be more natural if she explained who they is instead of playing the pronoun game. I guess she means the government. And it could make sense that she's so tired of and used to people not believing her conspiracy theories that she doesn't feel like explaining herself anymore. She says she can hear them whispering in her head and scheming, even here. Either she's even crazier than most versions of Styx, or she's a psychic who can't turn her mind reading of specific people off, no matter how far away they are. Maybe because of a government experiment to make psychics. But that'd be too interesting, so instead she's just crazy. Knuckles sees something weird and wonders if she isn't crazy. What's he even looking at? Styx says she can hear what someone's puppeteers tell him to do, and then confusingly says that hear isn't the right word. She really is being watched, and based on the red tint of the panel, it's probably by a robot like Metal Sonic. But that just makes me wonder why an advanced robot has terrible red vision. Knuckles destroys a robot, and asks if it's a badnik. It doesn't look like an animal-shaped robot. Styx says that the voices are finally quiet, and all she can hear is her own thoughts. And she hasn't felt this good in years. Knuckles asks who she really is, and she claims to not know. He brings her to Porker, who conveniently recognizes her. What are the chances of that? We never saw her in Fleetway before, so it could be assumed that she was living far apart from all of the main characters. He says that he had thought Styx had gotten help long ago and didn't know she ended up like this. He says Eggman used her to test his biological computer technology so that he'd know for sure that it would work on the Emerald Hill folk. That's surprisingly smart of him. Styx says they got off easy, and she had spent years listening to whispering messages, like television signals, computer data, and internet downloads, without stopping for a moment. And it was hard for her after broadband was invented. How did she manage to go to sleep? This is certainly more interesting than her actually being crazy. It takes what you'd expect about her, and then does it even better. Apparently my idealistic guess wasn't too far off, since Eggman was the government back then, and she was an experiment. But this was just an unintended side effect of his. Naturally, why would he want this? But Porker saying he thought she had gotten help makes it forced that she didn't. Wouldn't it have been common sense for her to go to Porker immediately to try to solve her problem because he's a famous genius? She says the badnik's dead and it's good enough for her that she can't hear its whispering. I love this character here. She's being used interestingly, not just as a butt of a joke for a scene. It makes her feel more grounded in reality that she has a backstory of some kind. It turns out the metal thing got past the energy barrier around the island. If Knuckles thinks it shouldn't have ever gotten past it, why did it happen anyways? Would it even make sense? There's a reason I never think of Fleetway Angel Island as having a force field around it. And it's because things always get past it anyways. Porker says he'll get the energy barrier back up. It should really be explained that it keeps most robots out. We're just seeing the exceptions. Knuckles hopes the metal thing is the key, and he might know where the door is. Sure is lucky that Big found it for him right when he wanted it, huh? Of all the different little places he could have been fishing, he fished that up. Convenient coincidences do happen in real life. The door is right behind Big. I like that the text bubbles from Knuckles and Porker are colored accordingly when they're off screen. Every comic should do that, but most of the ones I've read don't. Knuckles uses the key, I suppose, and Porker immediately assumes that this doesn't look like Echidna technology. Not that I even see what he's looking at, so how would he know? The Echidnas in this comic made guardian robots in a floating island. Then they go up to a metallic ball with a purple light on it that Six immediately assumes is an alien pod. Seeing that thing reminds me of Portal. Knuckles agrees that none of this is of Echidna origin. Explain why the hell it's on Angel Island then, of all other places. The only aliens that extensively interacted with Mobius and SCC were the Dracons. So logically it would only be them. Instead of giving regard to past canon, Porker finds a key to Babylon here. And we see Rouge's father say that Babylon has always been in the floating island. He says the Echidnas are crafty. So they do have something to do with this? Because otherwise this would be a complete non-sequitur. Grimer says his scouting android has been damaged. Why is he calling a robot that doesn't look like a person at all an android? At least we finally know what that so-called badnik was. Rouge's father said it did what they sent it to do, and Babylon and the door are open. And Rouge says that the final key was left in Babylon itself because he left it there, so that's why he knows about it. So why did he call the Echidnas crafty? I thought he meant the Echidnas put it there. The story ends with them all wanting to become pirates of legend and take Babylon. What do they plan to do after that? If they're gonna keep being evil, then I shouldn't root for them, but I don't know for sure yet. Getting treasure isn't evil. I'd rather the treasure of Babylon be spent on stuff and therefore result in money for people in the economy than be kept away from everybody doing nothing. These guys aren't quite evil enough, at least on screen. The only thing that makes me not trust them is that Rouge's father looks evil, but he saved Sonic. At least it feels less suspiciously convenient that rather than Knuckles finding this suspension chamber showing him a part of his past way too easily, instead his plot actually connected to the previous plots after all. This issue by Akira, and with Evan Stanley as a creative consultant, was about Knuckles meeting up with Styx on the floating island, finding out that she detected Grimer's scouting drone because she can hear wireless signals due to a side effect of her being a test subject of the biological computer, which I thought Robotnik said would make people a part of it permanently, and therefore kill their individuality. I guess he only said that because he never planned on those people being removed from it. So, they would be a part of it permanently. So that kinda makes sense. Anyways, Big very fortunately fishes up a key leading to the final key of Babylon in Angel Island, which was put there for safekeeping by Rouge's father, even though he called the Echidnas crafty and said it was hidden in plain sight. He was talking about Babylon itself, which is an Angel Island of all places. If Big was fishing in literally any other part of the place he was fishing in, let alone was anywhere else in Angel Island, then this plot would have never happened. How is Rouge's father expecting to get to Babylon if Big didn't fish up the key? That was the only way to get to it. But I guess Rouge's father had a ship capable of blasting with lasers or something to get to Babylon by force. That really should be explained, because his victory relied on something he couldn't have possibly anticipated happening. And the whole plot happened because since Sonic told him he saw him in the ancient past, Knuckles wanted to find where he was first put in suspended animation when he was in the past, so he went to Megapolis, not even questioning why he doesn't remember waking up from suspended animation if he was put into it. But SSC Online had a good point. It seems more plausible that Knuckles was resurrected every time he died by a magic emerald. So rather than being put in suspended animation so he'd only guard the emerald at a part in the future so far ahead, instead Knuckles was guarding the emeralds for thousands of years, from threats that Echidnas wouldn't know about. It makes sense that it was always guarded. It is overkill since only Eggman was a serious threat to them, so most of his guarding was for nothing on a floating island only Eggman could get to. But how are the ancient Echidnas supposed to know that? How are they supposed to know when flying machines would be invented? Let alone know that Eggman would be a threat, and in what specific part of time? Knuckles is jumping to conclusions assuming he was frozen and sent to the future instead of simply resurrected every time he died. But he's coming to the conclusion that most people would first. As for all he knows, there's no evidence he was on the island in more than just 2 time periods. Thousands of years ago, and now. It is depressing to imagine that Knuckles lived a huge amount of lifetimes all alone guarding the island for nothing. Why would they think he'd need to be guarding the emerald, when the whole reason the island was made to float was to make sure that nobody would be able to get to it? So I guess I'm being frozen in time until recently when there's airplanes is a better idea. And we know that Tikal's father can see into the future. But it better be explained why he doesn't remember getting out suspended animation then, or that'll be even more confusing. It's a good story. I love that Styx was used here.